Hi, I'm Lindy Louise and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to cover 9 tips for weight loss for beginners. At the end of this video, you're going to walk away with some easy tips to apply to your real life to help you either lose weight or to maintain the healthy weight that you currently have. So let's start with what I believe is the lowest hanging fruit of all the tips that we're going to talk about today. And it is tip number 1, walking after each of your meals. This is pretty simple. It is free and most people have a few minutes after a meal to do this. So you can do this indoors if you're at the office or at home, or you can do this outdoors. Always benefit to get fresh air. And why this works is after a meal, our blood glucose level can go up. And where does that go? Well, it's in the bloodstream. And how our body can get rid of it is either through pumping out insulin to let the cells take that blood glucose up, or you can stimulate it a different way by using your muscles, which then use that blood glucose in the bloodstream for that quick energy. So when insulin levels are low, this is good because insulin is a fat storage hormone. So if insulin is high, let's say after a meal that maybe really spikes your blood glucose and you're having a hard time bringing it down, it's a fat storage hormone. So it tells our body to store that excess energy as fat. All right, this one is a little bit tricky, and it is managing your cortisol levels. And how the heck do you do that? Well, you can get a fancy test by going to your healthcare provider and exploring that, or you can feel it in your body. If you're overall feeling stressed in your day-to-day life, it's very likely that your cortisol is very high. Now, our cortisol is naturally high in the morning and it allows us to wake up. But if it is peaking at different parts of the day due to stress or over caffeinating or relationship drama, that is something to address because it does play a role in us holding on to excess body fat. So some simple tips here. Number 1, I want you to be really honest about your caffeine intake and how much you're consuming during the day. I'm not against coffee. I'm not against green tea. I'm not against, these natural forms of caffeine, but how much are you drinking? And if you're drinking, 3, 4 cups, a pot of coffee, maybe look at, do I really need this and is it serving me? If my goal is to reduce stress and to ultimately reduce weight loss. Another way is managing stress. So this can be managed through multiple ways. Are you getting enough exercise? How are your relationships in your life? Are you getting enough sleep, right? If we're not sleeping, which is when we heal the body, that can be really stressful on the body, even if you don't perceive it. Some signs that your body might be stressed include eye twitch, this feeling that you need to depend on caffeine throughout the day just to keep going, or just kind of feeling tension in your body. We often carry it in our shoulders, in our neck, in our jaw. Are you clenching? Are you grinding at night? So these are some things to consider. So, after this video, jot down some ways in your life that you could reduce stress or even identify areas that are stressors to you. Okay, next tip. Tip number 3, cook most of your meals at home. So this one's gonna involve some planning. If you're not used to grocery shopping once a week, maybe split it up into 2 days so it's less intimidating to start, and avoid going at peak times. Like for example, you might not wanna go to the grocery store early Sunday afternoon when everybody else is doing it. So it's gotta work for your schedule. So that is number 1, but plan it into your week. Put it into your calendar, make sure you do it. Because cooking most of your meals at home, you can really control what ingredients are going into your food. And that is honestly one of the biggest levers you can pull for achieving optimal health and losing stubborn weight. All right, tip number 4. I knew you knew this one was coming. Quality sleep. And I mean high quality sleep. So this one's probably obvious to you, but there are numerous studies that show a link between how well we sleep and how long we sleep and weight loss. So I want you to remember the last time you had a bad night's sleep. How did you feel that day? Probably terrible. You might have been making bad food choices to provide some comfort or just to get through the day. And it's just not a good day. And then when we finally get that rest, we just feel better the next day and it's easier to work out. It's easier to implement all these other tips that we're talking about in this video. So we live in a modern world where there are a lot of modern distractions, like hello cell phones or TV, you name it, the list goes on. I want you to find ways to get to bed earlier at night, get somewhere between 7 and 9 hours of sleep. The optimal number of hours is going to be different for each person, and try to get that quality sleep. If you are a parent of young children, this is probably not going to be your tip in this video and you're just going to do your best. But if you're in this season of life where you really can focus on quality sleep, I highly encourage you to do so. Okay, you knew this one was coming. Tip number 5, limit sugar, my friends. Obvious, I know. So when blood sugar levels are high after, let's say, a sugary beverage or a condiment like barbecue sauce, or, even something like a big bowl of pasta that's gonna break down the sugar in the body, it tells insulin that it needs to come out to help get rid of that glucose. And insulin, my friends, is a fat storage hormone. So if our insulin is really high from, like, let's say a really high sugar meal or lots of sugar throughout the day, so lots of those blood glucose spikes, it's going to be really hard to break down fat because insulin is telling our body to store fat. Think about a bear going into hibernation for the winter. It's eating lots of berries, and all of that glucose going into that bear's bloodstream is telling insulin, hey, we need to store this for, what's about to come. But that day is never going to come for the modern human because, well, we don't have to hibernate. So if you are trying to lose some stubborn weight, this is a really good tip to get rid of that excess stubborn fat. And I'm back. Maybe my favorite tip, probably gonna guess this one if you watch my channel, but prioritizing protein. Look at this beautiful chicken. All right, so why this is important, it provides satiety. So it makes us feel full, it makes us feel satisfied. And when you're full and satisfied, you're not reaching for the foods that you're probably trying to avoid, like sugar and the other ones on the list that we talked about today. So, and it also builds lean muscle mass. So if you are strength training, protein is a perfect fuel to build that lean muscle mass, which will be very beneficial for your metabolism. Remember, muscle tissue takes more energy to maintain than fat stores. So if you have a lot of muscle tissue from eating a lot of protein and putting in the work through strength training, walking, etc., you're gonna be burning more calories just at rest, just from having that good lean muscle mass. So how much protein should you actually be eating? So I recommend about 1 gram of protein per ideal body weight. So if your ideal body weight is, let's say you're 5'2" female and your ideal body weight is, 115, 120, something like that. Means you're gonna be aiming for about 115 to 120 grams of protein per day. And this is a lot. You're gonna feel full and it'll be challenging in the beginning. Okay, next tip. If you have followed my channel for a while, you know that I am an advocate for lifting heavy for you weights, strength training. We'll get into what that looks like in later videos, what heavy for you means, but it's gonna look different for every person, hence heavy for you. And why does this work? So why does lifting weights help me lose weight or help you lose weight? In simple terms, your muscle tissue requires more energy to be maintained by your body than your fat tissues. So it's more energy expensive for your body to maintain a lot of lean muscle mass than a lot of fat mass. So even when you're resting, sleeping, reading a book, catching up on your favorite Netflix show, working at your desk, you are burning more energy at rest. So all that hard work you put in at the gym, or in my case, my home gym today, is gonna pay off and really help you meet that weight loss goal that probably encourage you to click on this video. So you've got nothing to lose. If you're just starting out, I recommend 3 to 4 days a week of strength training. That can look like even 25 to 30 minutes if you're really pushing yourself and being efficient with that time. On the other days, I recommend getting out in nature, walking, doing life stuff, just moving your body or being active in the way that you enjoy. So you got nothing to lose. You're gonna look better, you're gonna feel better, your clothes will fit better, I promise you that. And then people are just gonna start asking you, hey, what are you doing? You look different. And all of that keeps the momentum going and keeps you on this weight loss journey in a sustainable way that will last long term. All right, tip number 8, get a kitchen scale and learn how to use it effectively. Now, before you say, Lindy, this could lead to disordered eating, I don't know about this scale business. I find I use this more to make sure I'm eating enough protein rather than eating too much food. Now, it could go both ways, and maybe it is that you're maybe overeating and getting a lot more calories in the day than your body needs for how active you are. But I recommend learning how much protein you are actually eating. So for example, let's say you're making burgers and you get like a bunch of ground beef and you're trying to portion them out. Put a little piece of parchment paper on this, scale it way before you cook the meat because, well, that's how you do it. When you cook the meat, it's going to weigh a lot less because it's going to lose some of that water, so you might overeat that way. But honestly, it's more important that you just get an idea of how much protein you're eating because again, if you eat enough protein, you're going to feel full and satisfied throughout the day and it's going to be so much easier to meet your goals. So I use this about once a quarter, again, just to make sure that I'm on track. And I usually know when I'm falling off track. Like like I might be gaining a little extra weight, or just might not feel good, maybe have some brain fog, all those negative symptoms of just not eating what's best for my body. So give it a try. Tip number 9, last but not least. Okay, you might not like this one, you might hate me for this, but avoid snacking. I know snacks are the best, but they do not help with weight loss. And it's usually a sign that you're not getting enough fuel during your actual mealtime. So follow the other tips that we talked about in this video about prioritizing protein and structuring your meals around that to keep you satiated and full. And that's a wrap. Thanks for sticking around, and I hope you walked away with some good tips for weight loss or maintaining your current healthy weight. If you need some ideas for simple cooking at home, please check out my shorts page. I have over 100 videos there, and they are pretty delicious. Yes, I'm biased, but they're good. Okay, or check out my most recent video of what I eat in a week just to get some more meal inspo. So as always, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and stay tuned for more videos on healthy cooking at home and other diet and lifestyle tips like this.